A few days ago, I was on TikTok because there was to do, and I saw a TikTok, obviously, and it was comparing songs written about women in the 50s to songs written about women now. It was a funny TikTok. It got a laugh out of it, so I'm not criticising the TikTok or the creator of the TikTok at all. Right, so for copyright reasons, I've obviously decided to mute this audio, but everybody knows, well, if you're on TikTok, you know this song is Put Your Head on My Shoulder, and the next song is that song by H that talks about having sex. So, bye. I do this thing lately where, like, no matter what the post is, no matter what the video or the picture is, I always read the comments, and I think it's just genuine boredom, so like that wastes at least 10 minutes for us. And in the comments in this section there was a lot of like, oh my god, so true, or like people saying like, oh god, I was definitely born in the wrong era, I've definitely said I've always been born in the wrong era, and like, oh, the world was so much more respectful back in those days, and you know, the general comments that you would see on a post regarding the good old days. You know, the good old days of the 1950s, just after the war, when teenagers still weren't teenagers, and people had no money and rations hadn't fully disappeared yet, and we're still rebuilding the country after the war. The good old days in the 1950s. So today I'm not talking about those things. I'm not talking about all the other things that happened in the 1950s. I'm just talking about music, the music of the 1950s and the early 1960s. And before I go any further, I feel like I have authority. I have the authority to talk about this because you might know, because I have mentioned it a few times on this channel, but I used to live my life like a 1950s housewife. I used to dress 1950s. My makeup was 1950s, my clothes, my hair. I would pin curl my hair in a wet set every single night. I wore fucking Marilyn Monroe / Doris Day style makeup every day. I wore petticoats under my dresses. My whole wardrobe. Like, I didn't dress like this. No. I would have had victory rolls on my head. I'd have been wearing a tea dress with a petticoat underneath, some flat dolly shoes with some frilly socks. The whole thing. What I'm saying is I was obsessed with being as vintage as I possibly could. Music, movies, fashion, style, everything. So I feel like I have the authority to talk on this topic. Now that's cleared up. Let's scoot Laura Lou Vintage over to the side and not bring her back up for a while. Also, I also used to be one of those idiots who was like, I was born in the wrong era. I was definitely born in the wrong era. Should have been born in 1872. I still love history, obsessed with history. I want to know everything that happened before I was born, from the beginning of time to 20th of February 91. I want to know everything that happened. I'm obsessed with history. But like, I was like, oh my god, I wish I had been born in the 1800s. I wish I was a Victorian. I wish I was born in the 40s. I wish I was born in the 30s. Like, why? Pepsi, can you hurry up and sponsor us, please? Let's talk about music from the 50s and 60s and how it was way more respectful about women than today's music. Spoiler, it wasn't. First CD I ever bought with my own money was S Club 7, banging tunes. And the second CD I ever bought with my own money was a compilation album called Super 60s, and it was just like all of the best songs from the 1960s on this compilation album. From there I discovered lots of different bands and artists from the 60s and before, like Neil Sedaka, Bobby V. I love a bit of Bobby V. And then I started buying like all the Dreamboats and Petticoats albums. I think I have every single one of them. Like I was obsessed with the TV show The Royal. I had the soundtrack for that, which was a 3 CD compilation as well. Like I ended up with like literally every CD I could find that had any music on it from like 68 previous. From 68 and before, all I could think was Beyond, and I'm like, no, we're not into that. So until about like 6 years ago, I was like, I listened to the music from the 50s and 60s and be like, oh, this is real music. This is real music. The stuff they play on the radio today, absolute. That. But this is real music. That's the kind of person I was. I couldn't see past the nostalgia. I don't know why I had nostalgia for the 1950s, because born in 91, you know. But I was caught up in the whole nostalgia of like that, you know, that American Diner version of the 1950s. I was so caught up in all that, like sitting in Frankie and Benny's knowing every word to every song because I was such a N-log. Oh my god, I'm so exposing myself, I hate this. Like that was me. That was me sitting, going for first dates in Frankie and Benny's, sitting in a petticoat, swing dress, singing along to all the songs. No, we gotta say goodbye for the summer, but darling, I promise you this. Sitting in the booth, eating my lasagna, singing along. Everyone in the restaurant probably thought she's not bad. So as I got older and I grew out of my like vintage phase, and I still listen to music all the time, but I started to realise that the vibes are very strong. So strong that it's very hard to ignore them. The misogyny is always there. Vibes overwhelming. And it's like, it's disturbing, like the fact that people wrote those songs and then had people sing them, and that was okay in them days. That was fine. Wow, that was okay then. Ew. Now, I'm not accusing any of the recording artists of being pedos. I'm just saying that whoever wrote the songs clearly had a lifestyle issue that needed sorting out.
Stop it. Get some help.
If you think about all the things that people get cancelled for these days, right? These recording artists, if they sang those songs today, they would be literally, like, it would be Shane Dawson all over again. Completely cancelled. Completely cancelled. Like, Tony Lopez ain't got nothing on these guys. That's the situation we would be at. Pure cancellation. Now, I don't know if you've ever realised whilst listening to music from that era, but in the 1950s and the 1960s, turning 16 was really romanticised. Like, really romanticised. To the point where, like, there are dozens, if not hundreds of songs written about girls turning 16, sung by men who are definitely a lot older than 16. Like, for example, Neil Sedaka sings a song called Happy Birthday, Sweet 16. And I just want to read out some of the lyrics for you so you can understand what I'm talking about when I say your vibes. The problem with this song is such a catchy and cheerful, like, bop along song that literally you listen, the first few times you listen to it, you don't, like, it doesn't click in your head like what it's about. It does now, but it didn't first few times I listened to it. I'm sure that happens with a lot of people. The thing is though, like young girls back in the day would probably put this on their record players and were like, oh my god! And obviously they were probably more like, oh my god. That gives off like a romanticized vision of like older men going after like, schoolgirls as well. Like, some of the delightful words of this song are, tonight's the night I've waited for, 'cause you're not a baby anymore. What that says to me is that like, you've lusted after this child for a real long time, but now she's 16 and it's legal in your state, so that's, you're gonna do stuff because it's her 16th birthday, probably regardless of whether she wants it to or not. And just in case you think I'm jumping to conclusions about like it being like a song from older guy's perspective towards a 16-year-old girl who's just turned 16 on her 16th birthday and the day before was 15 and he still fancied her. More lyrics? I guess I could give you more lyrics. When you were 6, I was your big brother. When you were 10, we didn't like each other. Oh, but when she was 11, you did. When she was 14, she was your funny Valentine. But since you've grown up, your future is sewn up, and from now on, you're gonna be mine. You don't have a choice, 16-year-old. You are legal now. You belong to me. I've already spoke to your mum and dad. Tough. There's another line and it's like, if I should smile with sweet surprise, it's just that you've grown up before my very eyes. You were watching her the whole time. The whole time. So like you were a family friend and you saw this baby grow up. I could be reading so much in, I probably am, it's just like, what else a thing in the, like, did people know about in the 50s and 60s? Like, obviously they were around, they've always been around, unfortunately. But, like, when the writer of this song sat down and was, like, on his typewriter writing his song, or could have been a pen and paper, I don't know. Like, what? Did he know that in, like, 40, 50, 60 years, people were going to look at this song and be like, ew, the are you writing a song about being a for? I can guarantee that in the 50s, listening, or in the 60s, I can't remember if this was a 62 song or a late 50s, whatever, I'd have listened to this and be like, oh my god, it's so romantic. So Johnny Bennett released a song in the 1960s called You're 16, You're Beautiful and You're Mine. Now the words aren't as creepy as the last song, okay? But it's still incredibly uncomfortable to think that when Johnny Bennett sang this song with the words, you're all ribbons and curls, oh what a girl, eyes that sparkle and shine, you're 16, you're beautiful and you're mine. He was 26. He was 26 years old. Like, can you imagine me, like, as a 29-year-old woman, like, releasing a song about a boy who's just gone 16 and being like, can't wait to ride that. Now that he's 16, you're gonna be my husband, father my children at 16. That's romantic. It's not! Do you know what though? In the 1970s, Ringo Starr covered this song and he would have been way older than 26. So like, 10 years later, did nobody, when Ringo was recording this, nobody go, 1 Ringo you can't sing, 2 Ringo, that's creepy, don't cover that one. Stick to Yellow Submarine and like that. Sing about your octopus's garden again, that's fine. Don't sing about 16-year-olds. Please. There's another song from the very early 60s called Go Away Little Girl. in this song, he's talking about how he's saying like, go away little girl, get away from us. You're not supposed to be alone with us. And then he's going on about how he's already with somebody. But, you know, he goes on to say, when you're near me like this, you're much too hard to resist. So, I'm getting the vibes that you know what you're going to do is wrong, not only because you're cheating on your girlfriend, but this is a child, and it doesn't mention the age 16 in this song. But you're saying you're probably going to do it anyway, yeah. You're probably just going to, yeah, you're going to probably just assault this little girl because you can't resist your own temptations. Do you know what is worse about this song? Is it was co-written by Carole King. Do better. Just do better. So now that we've talked about mad vibes in classic rock and roll songs from the 1950s and 60s, let's talk about sexism and misogyny and threatening behaviour. Doris Day is my all-time favourite actress ever and always will be. I love Doris Day. I love Doris Day's movies. I love Doris Day's acting. I love Doris Day's music. I love Doris Day. I love everything she's ever done in the world. I love her. I wanted short hair just so I could have the same page boy haircut as hers. Like, I'm obsessed, and I still love her so much. But my God, the music that had her singing, it's problematic. It's problematic by today's standards. But you know, back in the 50s, this was probably normal behaviour. The poor fucking women who lived through the 50s and 60s, I salute you for having to put it with all the bullshit men give you. Disgusting. Let's start off with the first song that I think is a little bit weird. It's Something Wonderful from The King and I. In The King and I, that song sort of makes sense for the character that sings it. So it's the king's wife that sings that song, isn't it? Yeah. And she's basically saying like, the king is a bit of a kid, he's a bit of a dictator, but like, I support him, he's my husband, I think, and I love him, and that's that. But Doris Day covered that song, so when you take that out of that situation, she's literally just singing about how she's got an abusive husband, but she placates him and she's gonna stick by him because she's got no choice. And that's what a woman should do. Support your man. Romantic values. And then there's this song called A Guy Is a Guy. And it's the worst song in all of history ever. And that's because this song describes a woman's walk from wherever she's been, shopping trip, whatever, to her house, and a man following her and his behaviour being excused. Excuse me? No. I'm literally getting triggered thinking about this. It's so creepy because, like, having been followed home before, if I had to turn around and be like, that's fine, you just assaulted me sexually, but that's okay, you're a man. I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't have reacted like this though. So let's take a look at these beautiful poetic lyrics. It starts off strong with, I walked down the street like a good girl should. Like a good girl should. A girl who's minding her own business, walking around in the street in broad daylight, surrounded by other people, being safe, just walking home. He followed me down the street like I knew he would. Poor Doris, in this situation, was aware there was a man following her. I'm sure most women have been there. It's not nice. But the thing is, Doris justifies this in the song by going, because a guy is a guy wherever he may be. Now listen as I tell you what this fella did to me. Doris, don't tell me, tell the police. Shout and scream until somebody comes and saves you, Doris. You don't have to go through this. Oh wait, it's the 1950s and you're a woman, so nobody cares. Tell me, Doris, I'm listening. I care. I care about you, Doris. So to break down the song, this is how the rest of it goes. He follows her to her house. He follows her up her stairs. He stops at her door and he asks her for a kiss, and she politely says no. So she said no, saying she's literally not given him permission. She just basically said like, no thank you, please go away. But you know what? He kisses her anyway. He does it anyway. After this guy assaults Doris, she goes and tells her parents. And at this point you're like, bet the dad goes, gets his gun, because it's America, gets his gun and chases his mother on the street, saying, don't you touch my door again, you little dirty scared. Pop, 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 whatever guns do. But do you know what? Unfortunately, the parents go, well, you dirty slut, you shall marry this man. Did I mention that in the song she says that she's never met this guy before in her life and he's a stranger? And the parents have never met this guy either, and they're just like, did you clearly wanted that man to kiss you, you little whore. To the chapel with you. To the chapel. You shall be married to this stranger and you shall bear his children and you shall be happy about it. The song ends quite joyfully with because a guy is a guy wherever he may be. Now you've heard the story of what somebody did to me. Yes, Doris, I heard it. I've learned from it. What I've learned is that your parents didn't care. I've learned that in them days it was fine for men to see a woman have a lustful thought, act upon that lustful thought, and it was always the woman's fault. You shall face the consequences, Doris, of that man not being able to control himself. So basically what I want to say is there is a common theme in the music from days gone by that, you know, women's rights, not important. It's always like, it's always the men that were catered to. Like if you listen to any song by the Crystals, the Ronettes, the Shirelles, I want to say Marvelettes. Is that you know which ones I'm talking about, something like that. All the songs are about being a young girl and just wishing and hoping and praying for a guy. Like there's literally a song by the Ronettes, it's called So Young, and it's like, oh my god, I'm so young, I can't marry anybody. And she's literally like, what's the point in life? I can't marry anybody, I can't be with a man yet, so my life is pointless. Every song sang by a woman in those days is about how her life is pointless without a man. And it seemed to me like every song by a man in them days was, is this up all the way? Yeah. Was about owning a woman, sexualising a child, not having restraint where children are concerned, young girls being very attractive, all the things they wanted to do to the young girls, like... Ugh. So when I hear people say things like, oh, the music in them days, that was real music. That was real music. Back then, people respected women. Respected women. Women dressed properly in them days. Just shut up. Because it's 2021 and like if people are interested in that genre of music and that period in time, we've got a lot of information at our fingertips. Like, so I just feel like unless you have researched it and really enjoy the thought of like women not having many rights and women not being believed when they're assaulted, black people having no rights, being gay, being illegal, like black people being killed at any time just because they're black, education being restricted to certain minorities of people, music. I feel like unless you can come to terms with that, don't say things like that. Don't say like, oh, I wish I was alive then. Like, that was real music. That's when respectability was around. That's the decade. That's the decade we should all aspire to. Because it's not. Like, 2021 might not be perfect and the world is still struggling in certain places, but we're a hell of a lot better than we were 60, 70 years ago. I don't really have anything else to say except that it's been on my mind. It's been on my mind for a little bit, and I just wanted to get it off my mind, put it over there, so people could look at it and go, do you know what? She's got a point. Do I have a point, or am I just complaining about things that don't really matter? So whilst I still love the styling aesthetic that films, most of the music, the clothing and stuff like that from those decades, I am more aware than I was when I used to emulate that you know, life now is better. Life wasn't better then. Life was difficult then for a lot of people. Not everybody in the 50s had the swing dresses and the cars and like went to diners to drink milkshakes with their pals and things like that. A lot of people in the 50s lived in poverty and were scared of where the next meal was going to come from, and there was not much there to help people. You know, they'd just come out of a war. Life was is what I'm saying. Life wasn't what was seen in the movies and in the songs. So when next time you hear somebody say, oh, life was so innocent back then, just say, ma'am, sir, you don't know what you're talking about. So that's all I wanted to say. If you've enjoyed me talking about things that have no bearing on today's society, please give this video a thumbs up. Comment. I'm trying to think of something that. Comment vintage in the comment section for a laugh and to push this video up the algorithm, please, because you know we're on 165 subs and I would love to be on 170 by the 1st of February. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel where we upload twice, sometimes thrice weekly. If you have any video suggestions, drop them in the comments section below as well. Stay safe, stay indoors, get vaccinated if you're offered it, because I want to have my birthday in February. Bye.